As long as you're not using the time machine to not register for CDEx, we're more than happy for you to explore that opportunity. And can we now have Ishita introduce the first speaker for the day?
So our first keynote is Scott Abel, a name that I think all of us know, someone I have looked up to, a person who I've looked up to through my entire career. Hi, Scott, I see you on camera. Say hi. You're on mute. I think you need to unmute, Scott.
Am I unmuted?
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Now we can hear you.
All right, lovely.
The lovely shirt, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I love the colors. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So Scott Abel is someone we all know. He is Mr. Content Wrangler. He works with Heredo, and he runs the podcast series, a Content Evangelist. Someone, if you don't know Scott Abel, I'm sorry, you're living under a rock. But with that, Scott, I'm going to hand it over to you. Take it away.
Great. I'm going to share my screen, so please let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay, great. And you can hear me. All right, so let's begin. I'm Scott Abel. As Ashita said, I'm a content strategy evangelist for Heredo. That just basically means that somebody who's worked in content strategy for a long time, and I help them, they're a technical documentation software company, to identify the topics that are important to technical communicators from a strategic point of view, and to evangelize why those things would be things we would want to do. You might know me as the Content Wrangler. I host a webinar series, and some people call them podcasts, on the Bright Talk Network, which is the word bright and the word talk together, brighttalk.com. You can go to brighttalk.com and search for the Content Wrangler. You can find about 800 one-hour programs recorded and available for free for technical communicators and related disciplines. Today, I'm going to talk to you about when AI becomes the reader and structured content becomes an advantage. And if you'd like to reach out to me afterwards, you can feel free to do so. I'll take some questions at the end of the talk and converse with you on anything you'd like to related to this topic. If you've got something outside of that you'd like to bring to my attention, you can use my email address, my name, Scott, at thecontentwrangler.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. So because Back to the Future is the theme of this conference, I think it offers us a useful way to frame the moment that we're all in today. In the movies, the technology was, not really the hero. The people were the heroes. The technology only became useful when the people understood it and they were able to use it responsibly. I don't think AI is much different. It seems to be changing the interface that humans use to access knowledge, but it does not make content trustworthy on its own. I think that still depends on how well we structure, govern, and design our information. So I don't want this to be a talk about fear. I'm not very good psychic. I study a lot so I can maybe understand what might happen in the future. So I want this to be more of a strategy talk. In the age of artificial intelligence, technical writers and folks like content designers actually probably matter more, not less than when some people might think. Many of the past innovations were also disruptions, and they arrived in one industry first, and then maybe they spread gradually over time. But AI is significantly different, as we all know. It's changing work across all sectors, all countries, across all content types, and all job roles, all at once. It affects the structure of the content, whether it's structured or unstructured. It affects support content, training content, compliance content, marketing, internal content of all sorts. And it affects not just one job role, but nearly every role involved in creating, managing, or delivering information of any kind. That breadth seems to make it both different in scale and speed of spread. So think of this as not just another software upgrade, but more like a redesign of how knowledge work actually gets done in this century. For years, as you know, we wrote documentation for just humans. That's what we thought we did all the time. We wrote for people. We wanted the people to find what they needed, to understand it, to complete their tasks successfully. We wanted them to feel good about it. And that still matters, of course. But now documentation really kind of serves a search system, an answer engine system, a chat interface, and AI agents now. All these, not people. The systems, which all those things are, don't read the way people read. They retrieve information, then they rank it, they assemble it, they compare it to other information, and they transform it into something that humans can consume. But that polished prose that we were also proud of writing in the past is just not enough anymore. I think we've known that for a few years now. Because content has to be organized for reliable retrieval today. It has to be organized so that machines can reuse it in service of people. It has to be governed and transformed into something valuable that the other party, the humans in the equation, get to find value from. The structure is not always valuable, which is kind of weird, because it's always it's not. I guess what I'm trying to say is the structure is not always valuable to the content, to the content systems today, in the way that I wanted to believe that it is. It's actually valuable because it gives us control over what gets selected, what gets prepared by the AI system, and what gets delivered to people through those AI-powered experiences. So when machines become part of your audience, the structure stops being optional because the machines require it. I said good writing still matters, and I stand by that. But in an AI-augmented environment, good writing just isn't enough. What matters now is that the system behind the content, AI-driven experiences like the ones we're all thinking about right now, work better when content is modular, when the content is clearly labeled in a way the machine can understand, when it's consistently structured so that it has predictability, and when it's rich in context so that the machine can understand the things that people understand by default. We are contextual. We rely on the context to know what something means. And the systems that we're going to use also need to know what the content is, how it relates to other content, what constraints apply to that content, and when should you or should you not use the content. A well-written paragraph can still fail, is the message here, if the prerequisite is buried in there somewhere, if the version of your content is unclear to the system, if the warning is inconsistent from document to document, or the content lacks necessary metadata. This is why structure becomes an advantage, not because it's automatically a better direct input for a large language model, but rather because it gives us control over retrieval, preparation, content reuse, and governance. And those are 4 things that we are not very much in control of if we supply an artificial intelligence system with content that doesn't have guardrails, that doesn't have additional context and additional rules and information. And all that matters for people just as much as machines. As AI increases the volume of content that we're all exposed to, structure is what helps the humans keep up, because we can have the machines deliver the right kind of content to the right people and maybe in the right amounts. In the past, we had a print and a web-based world, and that's kind of the world we live in today, although it's starting to change. And good writing was enough. It could carry much of the burden of the technical communicators. In fact, we were rewarded for doing that well. Human readers of our content, they could infer the context from our meaning because we understood what they needed to know in order to connect all the dots, to connect related ideas and concepts, and to work around the inconsistencies that humans actually put into the system. We're used to inconsistency. We are human, so we are, less forgiving about some things, but we're pretty forgiving about inconsistency because we recognize we're not perfect. But AI systems are much less forgiving. And more importantly, the systems around AI need meaning to be made explicit to them. That's where semantic structured content matters. In the past, semantic structured content was pretty much used by technical communication shops to accomplish something for themselves called multi-channel publishing or single source multi-channel publishing. So we wrote something once and published it to multiple outputs. And the structure and the semantic value of the metadata helped us to tell the system which content to deliver to the PDF, which content to deliver to the web page, which content to deliver to a print version, because they may have some slight differences. But today, when content is semantic and highly structured, each piece of information can carry signals inside of it that tell systems what it is, how it relates to the other pieces of content in the world, when should it be used or not used, for who and under what conditions. All these things humans are very good at, but machines lack that information. So structured, semantically rich content makes content easier for systems to classify, to understand, to retrieve, to transform, to reuse, and to govern. And that's what makes meaning portable. That means that if you write a warning, it stays a warning even after an AI system processes it. A prerequisite always stays a prerequisite, and it stays attached to the thing that it is that it is before. A step stays inside of the step-by-step structure that you've built. A product version would stay connected to the procedure that governs. But if your content is a pile of words, here's what happens. The system has to guess about what you would like it to retrieve, what it should combine or not combine with other words, what it should leave out or include. Semantic structure reduces the guesswork by making meaning and the constraints that you need explicit before anything else reaches that model. And this is important for us to think about. Let's talk a little bit about why you should care. Of course, you should care. It's your profession. You're being asked to care. You're being asked to learn. Everything around you is changing. But why should you care about semantic structured content? I think the main reason why is because it helps the systems that we're going to be using preserve more than words. It helps preserve the role, the context, and the constraints, and it encapsulates it all together. And that matters because content's no longer only read by people. It's retrieved, assembled, transformed, and delivered by all kinds of systems, even ones that we haven't imagined yet. So the more consistently and the more clear we are when we express our meaning in our source content the way we want it to be understood, the more reliably AI systems can use that content without stripping away the context or the rules or the boundaries that make the humans who consume it feel like it's trustworthy. And without trust, humans are not going to have a good experience with our information. Your company should care, and they probably do. Adding semantic structure helps improve content retrieval. It helps with content reuse, governance, and the quality of the answer experience. So people in your organization who care about the customer experience should definitely care about semantic structured content. If you add a semantic structure, you can get outcomes that leaders already care about. I'll give you a few examples. We don't have to convince leaders of companies that they would like to provide a better or the best customer experience that they can reasonably provide. They already want to do that. They want to lower support costs when they can. They do. They want to reduce compliance risk. They don't want to be found to be non-compliant. They want to faster update all of the systems that they build and all the products they document. And they want a stronger foundation for AI-powered products and services that they can rely on so that they don't become a victim of exposing their customers to a brand new technology that we don't have fully control over. So to be clear, this is not about structure for structure's sake. It's about using structure to manage content reliably, to reuse it effectively, and to govern it at scale. In this new AI era, the companies that will win, I believe, will not just have more content or better, stronger models. They'll have better governed content operations and better structured content systems that help them deliver more reliable answers through these AI-powered interfaces. You've probably read about this or heard it yourself. Some leaders of companies hear AI and they imagine a business utopia where there's fewer people, less oversight, faster results. But that's an imaginary situation that isn't possible if the content behind the experience isn't already structured and current and governed. It's that underlying knowledge. If it's messy, inconsistent, outdated, or stripped of context, AI won't fix those problems. It will expose them and it will help you spread them faster. So when you rely on unstructured or ungoverned content, you can get answers that skip or confuse warning statements that you've written, might provide conflicting guidance to the same person, telling them to do two different things, might provide stale answers that are no longer relevant, or expose you to compliance or legal risks. And it's a system that delivers broken customer experiences that no leader wants to support. So let AI handle it is not a content strategy. It's not. AI isn't your cleanup crew for your weak content. What AI really will help you do is amplify the consequences of your weak system and reveal the problems that people may have been working around for years, because humans didn't stop working when the rules couldn't be followed. An AI system will break. It needs to have clear boundaries, governance, rules, and understanding, be interoperable. And it's not very good at overlooking our inconsistencies. Simply put, if you think about AI, it doesn't just amplify weak content systems, it helps reveal them. There's this concept of the content model that technical documentation people have been talking about for the last decade or so. For a long time, these content models, the metadata that goes along with it, the reusable components and the workflow rules that we need, they were just treated as back office details that tech com people do. Yeah, they were important, but mostly invisible most of the time. That's changed. As AI is part of the delivery experience, that content model starts shaping what users actually get delivered. These hidden systems that influence exactly what content is going to be found, what will be selected, what context stays attached to it, what gets combined, and whether an answer can even be trusted. And if that matters, even in the final content sent to the model, even if it's converted to Markdown or plain text, it doesn't matter. The value of the structure isn't the metadata alone. It's the control the metadata helps you provide. Control over what gets prepared, what gets passed forward to another agent, what gets reused in different mechanisms, and what's governed and controlled. So your content model is no longer just like some kind of piece of publishing infrastructure that only the nerds know about. It's part of your product experience, which means it needs to be managed as part of the product. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, that's nice. I get all that. But what about me? I mean, our profession is changing. That's true. It really is. It is dramatically changing. Ours and everyone else's. But it's not disappearing, and this is important to know. It's evolving. Our value, I believe, is shifting from producing pages of information to shaping how information is structured, governed, connected, and delivered. That means more responsibility for us. Yeah, it might be harder in some respects. It means more responsibility. We'd be responsible for metadata management. We would be responsible for orchestration of all these pieces of content and all these agents and their interactions together and how they work and how they don't work together. Governance of those systems, design of trustworthy answer experiences. All these things will be our responsibility, or at least the work we do will empower those things to happen that we want to happen. And the work we do will also prevent the things that we do not want to happen from happening. In this new AI world, I think technical writers and content designers are more than authors. We become content choreographers, knowledge architects, and people who build rules and review systems that make AI-enabled knowledge experiences governable. So the message here is AI doesn't seem to be replacing us, but it is dramatically changing where our value lives and what people who employ us find valuable about what we do. That means we're probably going to need to reinvent ourselves. We've had to do this before in the past, and it means you're going to need to market yourself a little bit. But here's something important I want you to consider. There's something really unusual. It's kind of a very unusual thing that's happening in this very moment right now. Nearly everyone on the planet is still learning about this. That includes your IT department. They are not years ahead of the rest of us. In most organizations, they're still experimenting, they're making mistakes, and they're learning as they go, right? They're iterating. And that matters because technical communicators aren't arriving late to the party. We are stepping in while the rules are still being written and the practices are still emerging. Okay, sure. There's going to be false starts. We're going to mess up. We're going to be overconfident. We'll probably have some weak implementations. Somebody will rush us and skip a few steps, and that will produce some hard lessons. But that's exactly why this moment matters to me. I think the field is wide open. The people who can invest in learning, who stay curious, who help shape smarter approaches, I think we can influence what the profession becomes next. So consider the uncertainty around AI is also your opportunity. Leadership will not belong to the people with the longest resumes in the AI revolution. It's going to belong to the people who learn the fastest, adapt thoughtfully, and help build what comes next. I think those 3 words at the top of the slide pretty much say it all. The people who come out ahead in this AI race will not be the ones who simply learn to use AI. They will be the people who learn how to direct and control it. They will think beyond old role boundaries, and they're going to keep learning and learning and learning because they understand the need for this. They will begin to learn how structure, semantics, metadata, and governance shape AI-powered workflows. They're going to understand what gets retrieved, what gets reused, what gets transformed or not, and what can be trusted and why, and what can be traced and why, because traceability is part of trustability. These people who pay attention, who are curious, who use their imagination to experiment, will do so, and they'll probably do it somewhat responsibly. They're not going to try to do bad things. Most of us are just going to try to learn how agentic systems actually work, including where they fail and where human oversight matters, because that's our role. My advice is the people who combine curiosity, discipline, imagination, and responsibility will have a real advantage against our peers in our industry. So if you're searching for work, or if you wanted to move up the corporate ladder and find a new position, the more curious you are, the more disciplined you are, the more imagination you allow yourself to use, and the more responsibility put in place for using the tools as we learn to use these tools that are very powerful, the more valuable you're going to become. There's probably a roadmap for our profession. I didn't draw one because I don't think you have to transform everything at once, first of all. I think if you could just start where the stakes are highest in your organization, maybe focus on some high value content, improve its structure, add metadata, define governance for a set of content, learn how AI systems actually use the knowledge. What do the systems get wrong? What do they get right? Measure those outcomes that matter. And the ones that matter are quality, trust, and successful task completion. Because if you can produce high quality, trustworthy content that helps people be successful at completing their tasks, you're pretty much doing what humans are supposed to be doing as technical communicators and content designers and other related disciplines. But do not wait. Please, please do not wait to be redesigned by the change. Because I think it's important that we all help design what comes next so that we are an integral part of it, and we're not left on the sidelines trying to catch up. That means we need to become indispensable in new ways. Sure, AI changes the way you work and it changes our profession. Now machines generate words, but they cannot take responsibility for the meaning or the trust or the consequences. That work is ours. That's why structure becomes an advantage for us. The people who know how to organize knowledge, how to govern it and make it usable so systems that are built by other humans can understand it, they're going to shape the world of work as we know it. So your future isn't really about getting rid of tech writers and content designers. It's more like becoming indispensable as content designers and tech writers in some new ways. I think we have to realize that we're not just publishing information anymore. We're designing how knowledge performs by orchestrating how content moves, performs, and earns trust. And we teach the machines and we govern them to make sure that they augment the work that we need to have done. Here's some advice for personal success. For tech writers and content designers, I think that means moving beyond page production and into the design of structured, reusable knowledge that supports search, training, support chat, agentic systems in a more controlled and trustworthy way. I think our value will come less from publishing pages and more from shaping how the knowledge performs, right? Because it's the experience that the user has that dictates whether they want to come back. But to do that, we're going to need to upskill. We're going to need to learn how AI works. We're going to need to know and understand where it fails and why. We're going to need to experiment boldly and take risks enough to turn the lessons into solutions that set us apart without damaging our reputation or our companies. And I don't think the winners will just be adapting to AI. I think they're going to use this knowledge they get to build smarter and more trusted content experiences that in the end should be better for the consumers we aim to serve. I'm almost to the last portion of the presentation before we take questions. I wanted to kind of go over these 6 quick takeaways and just have a pause on each one of these slides so you can kind of get the gist of, if I were going to give this talk in 6 slides, this is what it would be. Good writing still matters, right? But in AI augmented environment, good writing alone is not enough. If your content's just a pile of words, the system has to guess what to retrieve, combine, or leave out. It's simply math and science. It's not my opinion. That's just the way it is. If you do not provide the information it needs to retrieve, combine, and decide what to keep in or leave out, it will do it on its own by guessing. And it is a guess. The third takeaway is that structure does not matter because it's a magical food for content or for large language models. Instead, it matters because it gives your organization control of the output that these models can provide. The fourth takeaway is that this is not another software upgrade like so many things before us that just changed because the software changed, so we had to change. It is a complete redesign of how knowledge work gets done. Everything pretty much is going to change in the way that we think about how we do the work, in the way that we delegate the work, in the way that we decide what work to do and what not to do, and how we prioritize our time. The fifth takeaway is that AI systems reveal your weak content systems. If you have a weak content system and something gets spit out that you don't like, that doesn't make any sense, it's probably because you have a weak content system. You're not mature enough. You don't have the discipline and the governance and the metadata and the context that the machine needs. But you'll get there. And the sixth takeaway is, I don't think AI is going to replace us at all. I think it just changed where our value is. So we'll have to sell ourselves differently, explain ourselves differently, educate our younger folk who are moving into the industry differently. And I think the final thoughts I have here are that the future value of technical writing, it's going to be high. It really is. I think it means that we're going to have to think about it differently. Knowledge that can do more than sit politely on a page and wait for somebody to find it, that's kind of the way that the world works today. But when you got an AI system that's used to help somebody complete a task, guide decisions, transform their information from one thing to another thing that's more useful, to validate the output or support an automated workflow, we're talking about a lot more than generating content. We're talking about delivering whatever our customers need. And that would be content as a service. So you're providing the right information, but that information might actually do something. It might trigger another task. It might bring another piece of information along. And in that world, this world that we're building for ourselves, technical writers are not just documenting work after the fact. They're helping to define how work gets done. So if you're a technical writer or a content designer or a UX writer, you are part of the change, part of the revolution, part of the innovative disruption that's going on. And we don't want to be left behind to have to follow the rules of people who don't understand our workflows. The reason that we need all the things that we say we need, that sometimes they don't understand. I think our leaders will more likely figure this out over time. They are all, by the way, leaders of companies researching this. If there's some that are not, I would be surprised. I do know some investors who have told me that they require their Silicon Valley companies that they invest in, the leaders, to spend a certain amount of time every week researching AI solutions and trying to understand what would happen if they deployed one and what could go wrong and why it's wrong. Because it's not the AI that's wrong, right? It's the content that we're feeding. It doesn't have what the AI needs. I think leaders will discover this, and then we will be closer to getting the support, the tools, the training, and all the things that we need. Now, you may be lucky at Cisco, especially because you're working with Ishita and other bright people who understand why we need to think differently about content. The decisions you make may be slightly different than the ones that I talked about today, but they'll probably be similar in rationale, in approach. And I think we're going to get to a place where all of this won't be as scary as it might be today. So I'd like to take some questions from the audience at this time. Do we have a person who can help me with that?
We'll get a mic to you and speak only in the mic, otherwise folks on the webinar cannot hear.
Check. Please put your hands up if you have a question. I'll bring the mic to you.
Don't be shy. I can see you.
Okay, we have one question here.
Thank you.
More of an icebreaker. Scott, thank you for making us feel good.
Oh,
We
thank
have
you
been
very
there. This is really helping us to internalize that the future is not dead for us. We do have hope. So thank you for making us feel good.
You are very welcome. And in a few years, you can tell me whether my psychic power was way off or not.
Hi, Scott. So my question is, when implementing RAG systems, the most difficult part is the structure. So how do you put the structure in? What kind of databases you use? So if I were to flip that question up and abstract it, if you were building a front-end tool that brings in structure, what would be the three most important things you would build into that front-end system, like a documentation tool? So
I'm not an engineer. I don't care normally about any of that, the minutia. I think I understand your question, but I want to say it differently and see if that's what you want to understand. Are you asking how technical writers that have structured content today and have been deploying it for a while create it? That's different than what other people who make unstructured content do?
So what I'm asking is, how would structure change in the AI world? Meaning, like, would you go completely metadata, or are you thinking something else? So it could be content silos, which are more important than metadata. So how would, if there were three things you're building?
Well, first, I disagree with that comment about content silos being more important. I think that we could argue about that another time, but that was just your opinion. I think what I would say is that the semantic content that we first deployed as technical writers was for ourselves. It was selfish on our behalf because we needed to accomplish more work. We needed to be able to produce one set of content and deliver it to multiple places. So all the metadata, for the most part, and I'm going to say this without any science behind it, so I'm totally guessing now, but I'm probably right. I think that the majority of implementations in technical documentation of XML that were designed to enhance productivity and allow technical writers to produce more content with less resources were designed for multi-channel publishing. So just for us to get more output from one source. It was not to make the content experience better for the end user. If that was the case, you could, for example, make a variable out of every product name, and then you could query the product database and you could say, show me all the content about this product, and it would automatically exclude all the other documentation that is not about that product, because you would be able to sort and filter. So if in a human capacity, that's useful for some people, but it was more useful for us to make a PDF for some people and a web page for some people, etc. Right? But what if you have rich metadata and you took all, I'm going to give you an example. What if you took all the nouns, all the proper nouns that are in your documentation, and you semantically enhanced them so the system knew what each one was? If you were producing not documentation, so let's switch for a minute to a book. Let's say you were making a book about some subject and you wanted to have some experts that you quoted in the book. You could highlight and semantically enhance and tag every quote, right? And then say, create a list of quotes, and then you could have them sorted in alphabetical order because the LLM understands alphabetical order. See where this comes in? So I think at the point of writing is when most technical writers are adding the metadata, but when you have a set of unstructured content that's not structured, companies want to lean toward automating that process and have some system that goes in and auto tag it. The problem is it doesn't know when the humans didn't follow the rules, when the humans misspelled the word, when the humans didn't use the proper tag, all those things. I don't know if that really answers your question, but it's a good one. And if you want to follow up with me later, I'll be happy to dig into that even more, maybe write something about it for you.
Oh, anytime I can get from you would be useful. I will follow up. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. How are we on time?
Yeah. Hi, Scott. Thank you so much for the amazing session. So I think the previous question was pretty similar to what I was going to ask you. About like because you spoke about the structured content and semantic structure, right? So and we all know that we have had this structured content, for example, data for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I that writing good content in a data structure is enough for the AI world now, or there is a need to completely overhaul that that structure itself?
My opinion is that the data content provides the system with the cues that it needs to avoid giving unrelated answers. However, what's probably more important than the structure alone is that you use the right tools. For example, this is not a popular opinion, and I don't always give popular opinions. Amongst software vendors, I think that software vendors that sell tools that allow us to manage our content will have to change to allow us to manage prompts. It will be a prompt management platform because prompts are just another form of content. Prompts are delivered to audiences, right? They're targeted at audiences. Prompts can be conditional. For example, I have a prompt that writes a webinar description for me, but I have two kinds of webinars. One is a talk show, which is just camera with two people talking. The other is a slide deck presentation with a person whose voice you hear, but you don't see them, but you do see their slide. The instructions that an AI would write for both of those type of programs, are relatively the same. You still use the same web browser, you still enter the same passcode, you still, all those things are the same. You still view it the same way, but one of them involves slides and one involves a video camera, right? And a talk show is not the same thing as a presentation. So in a content management system in which prompts would be managed, there would be conditions. So for example, the condition in my example now would be if talk show, include the instructions about the camera because you're going to use it, right? If presentation, include information about the slide deck. What do you need from the slide deck? What size should it be? All of that. And you would have the AI know this inside of a system that controls this. So you're not just in a ChatGPT or Claude typing some stuff. You're actually building the workflow and all the rules inside of a prompt management system. that prompt management system will not be called a prompt management system because of the acronym PMS will give you search results you do not desire. So it will probably be a prompt management platform, or maybe, I think the scientific name for this is called, I hate this word, harness.
Yes.
And it's more of a constraint system. It allows you to constrain the content. For example, in the prompt management platform I use to write the prompts for the webinars that I do, I have those conditions in there, but I also have a private content library. And what did I put in the private content library? All of the 750 previously human written descriptions that I wrote of the webinars that I've hosted in the past. And so those webinars are in a private library. And then when the system writes, they compare what they write to my writing style that's in the private library with the rules that are there. And it does not use any training from its LLM training, except to write a sentence. It does punctuation, grammar, linguistics, sentence length, and things, but it doesn't get facts or my style from there. It gets it from my style guide and other things. So I have a feeling that we're just at this point where the metadata and all of the rules will be put into a system, and it's probably going to be the tools that we use, but it's not probably going to be in a lightweight tool. It will probably be in a tool that is industrial strength and designed to deliver industrial content. To be clear, I didn't say this during the talk, but I think we are in the place where we are industrializing the production of documentation. It is no longer crafty, right? It's more assembly. I hope that helps a little bit. And again, you can also follow up with me afterwards, and I'd be happy to make some time with you, and we could talk about that subject more in depth and make sure I get to the point that you wanted me to.
Sure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Scott. Working. Thanks, Scott. That was very insightful.
All right, you're welcome. Are we finished here? Do you want me to, are we done?
You're welcome to hang on, because the next keynote is also very fascinating, and it's totally up to you. But I just wanted to express my gratitude and let you know that you're very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. I feel the same way, and I will follow up with you afterwards. I unfortunately have to run. I have 3 dogs that need to go to the dog park.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your conference.